Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining Purdicom on our webinar today. We're going to be talking about UPS systems and why you should choose Certa. My name is Mark Lamont. I'm the product manager at Purdicom, and I'm also joined today by Matt de Vries, the divisional sales director at CertaUPS. So we'll just go through a quick introduction to Purdicom and Certa and some of the products they have available. I'll do a summary at the end, and we'll answer any questions. If there's any questions we've not answered as we go through the slides, please pop them into the chat box at the end, and we'll go through those briefly. And depending on how many questions we get, we should only be about 30 to 40 minutes, so hopefully we won't interrupt your day too much. So just a quick introduction to Purdicom. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with us already, but it's always a nice reminder or refresher or an introduction to those that are less familiar with us. We're a next generation wireless and networking distributor, headquartered in Oxfordshire with warehousing in Berkshire. And we help partners in the channel with networking solutions, primarily in the UK, but also in Ireland, mainland Europe, Middle East and Africa. And we do that by offering true value-add support and services. And what I mean by that is we always aim to be our partner's most trusted advisor when it comes to networking solutions. So the sales team are well trained on the products and solutions that we have. The technical team have gained all the necessary accreditations to support them. And we try and do all the trainer certifications so we can provide the training services in-house. And we also, where possible, try and practice what we preach and integrate those solutions onto our network as well. So hopefully we can give some first-hand experience and support where necessary. So I'll just have a quick look at some of the technologies that we have in that portfolio. So our roots are in wireless networking, both indoor and outdoor Wi-Fi and building-to-building links, so point-to-point and point-to-multipoint links. And we've been dealing with those technologies for many, many years, and I'm sure that's how a lot of you know us and are familiar with us. And as we've been looking to grow our business, we've been looking to expand the portfolio with some complementary solutions to wireless. A key one there, which we'll talk about today, is backup power solutions and UPSs from Certa. We also have some voice over Wi-Fi and smart messaging solutions, which also integrate lone worker protection. We have structured cabling solutions, Ethernet switching and power over Ethernet, which is obviously key for some Wi-Fi deployments. And also none of that's good if we can't secure it and control who's coming on the network and what they're doing. So we have a security solution as well. So just looking at some of the vendors that fit into those different categories, Ruckus is our largest vendor, has been for a number of years now, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Wi-Fi and Ethernet switching and management solutions that they have. Cambium is one of our longest standing vendors. We've been dealing with them since the days of Orthogon Systems and Motorola, and then Cambium in 2011. And they've got quite a broad portfolio of indoor and outdoor Wi-Fi networking, switching, point-to-point and point-to-multipoint networks. And Ciclu has been one of our fastest growing areas of wireless for a number of years. They operate outdoor building-to-building links and point-to-multipoint in the 60 to 80 gigahertz spectrum, so that's up in the millimeter wave bands. And that's quite nice for getting us away from 5 gigahertz, where there's more and more noise with Wi-Fi that's operating in those bands. And then some of the newer vendors that we're dealing with today, we'll talk very shortly about CertaUPS. WatchGuard, a lot of you might recognize as a name in the security market, traditionally firewalls, but more recently multi-factor authentication and wireless intrusion detection and prevention, or WIPS as we are more commonly known. And that's nice, complementary to all the Wi-Fi solutions we have from Ruckus and Cambium, so we can use that as an overlay there. Ascom have a voice over Wi-Fi handsets, which also allow you to do smart messaging to members of staff and groups of staff. So that's good for improving workflow and also protecting lone workers with their man-down, no movement features. CommScope's the most recent addition to our portfolio following their acquisition of Ruckus and the Aris Group a year or two ago. And CommScope are huge in structured cabling solutions, as some of you may well know, and we're fortunate to have access to those that portfolio now too. And lastly, Encapto is a cloud-based onboarding platform that allows us to capture user data logging onto public Wi-Fi networks, both from an access control perspective and then collating that data for direct marketing and advertising functionality as well. So just combining those two together, we can see here how the different manufacturers fall into the different categories. So we have Wi-Fi offerings from Ruckus, Cambium and WatchGuard, outdoor point-to-point and point-to-multipoint solutions from Cambium and Ciclu. CertaUPS can be a backup solution to any of the products we have in the portfolio, and we'll go into detail about that shortly. Ascom are our mobile voice messaging solutions, switching from Ruckus and Cambium, security and access and control from WatchGuard and Encapto, and structured cabling and infrastructure solutions from CommScope. So a quick introduction to UPSs. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with what a UPS is. It stands for uninterruptible power supply. In its most basic form, it is a backup battery. So in the event that we have a mains power loss, we can continue running equipment that is plugged into it. And the key reason for that might be servers that we've got in our comms cabinet. If we pull the power from them, they're going to crash, data is going to get corrupted, and sometimes they're unusable afterwards. So not only do we get business continuity if we've got a backup battery there, in the event that the power doesn't come on in the time that the battery is lasting for, the UPS is able to automatically send messages to servers to shut down in a safe and controlled manner. So we're avoiding losing any data in the process as well. A couple of key types of UPS systems we have is line interactive and online double conversion. So in short, a line interactive is a more cost-effective option, and that is filtering the AC mains power as it comes in and passing it on to the devices we're supporting. In the event that we get a power failure, then we switch over to the battery on board of the UPS. And that switchover just takes a few milliseconds, so nothing that would be noticed by the equipment that we're supporting. And online double conversion is perhaps more popular in IT and for more sensitive equipment. So this is where the AC mains is coming in, converting down to DC to power the batteries that are on board, and then output from the batteries is taken and converted back to AC to support the equipment. So we're constantly using the batteries to support the equipment. Therefore, there would never be any switchover time if we had a power failure, and nothing would be noticed by the equipment. So a few different reasons why you'd need a UPS system. A key one is obviously power failure. So if we have a mains power failure, then we're protected against that as well. But there's also a lot of additional benefits. The UPS will filter the power that's coming in. So if we get any surges or spikes in the power or brownouts or low voltage, then the UPS can filter that. So it's also preventing any damage to the equipment it might be connected to. Particularly if you're in an area where you might have a remote power source with a generator. Sometimes you can get dirty power from the generators or solar or wind power source, and then the UPS can help to clean up that power supply to the equipment and keep it running in the event that it fails as well. So key benefits of those systems are costs. For all of us, time is money. If the power goes down and we can't answer the phones or process orders, then that's costing us by the minute. So and as it would any business, in retail, if you need to take more payments are done electronically these days. So we need to be online and have equipment up and running to be able to do that. Data protection. So in the event that we're not able to shut down servers properly, then we can corrupt data and damage hardware as well. Business continuity, as I mentioned, as well. Employees being able to work and customers still being able to contact you and process orders. And time. So every time that we're out of power, the business is down. So that time is key for us here at Purdicom as well. We have a setup where we have a contract with a backup generator company, and if we have a power failure, then we log a call with them, and within 2 or 3 hours we get a trailer generator turn up on site, and we power that up and plug it in and get everything up and running. So in that time it takes for the generator to turn up, we have a UPS system that's powering the servers and routers and so on for the internet connections, and it's also powering the PoE switches. They're powering the Wi-Fi access points, and everyone's working off laptops connected to the Wi-Fi. So as long as the laptop batteries keep going and the UPS batteries keep going, then we're still operational and providing its daylight still as well, which probably helps. So I will just pass over to Matt now, who's going to go into a bit more detail about Certa as a company and the products they have to offer, and we'll catch up at the end.
Yes, good morning everyone. I'm Matt de Vries from CertaUPS. I've worked with Certa for 12 years. So we'll start just by going into who CertaUPS are. So Certa's been manufacturing for around 25 years. Got a good name within the UK in certain industries, in particular the medical. We've done a lot of work in hospitals and more industrial applications. So perhaps might not be the most well-known brand within the IT markets, but the reason for partnering up with Purdicom is to grow that name and to enter into the IT industry. And obviously they seem to have a good, well-trusted name within your industry, so it's a good partnership for us. So we're going to what CertaUPS do. So primarily it's UPS systems. We've got a good range of single-phase and three-phase UPS systems, which we're going to talk to you about today. Purdicom do have access to the full range from Certa, so pretty much anywhere where the customer is going to have an issue, if the power goes out, we can provide a solution to support that. So that can go from small single-phase products to support a single workstation, and we do right up to data center design UPS systems. So as we can see here, the CertaUPS single-phase range goes from 800 VA up to 20 kVA, and then on the three-phase side we go up right to the data center design. What we're going to do now is spend a bit of time just briefly looking at all the single-phase range, and maybe focus a little bit on what applications we'll use each of those for, hopefully to give you a few ideas on where they might fit into your customer base. So we'll start with the C60. So Mark went into the different types of technology, line interactive and online double conversion. The line interactive is obviously quite reactive in how it works. So it basically sits there and waits for an issue. And when the mains fails, it will switch over to battery and start supporting the load. So the C60, we sell a lot of these units to support CCTV systems, the DVRs, and electric points of sale. They sit under the counter and will support a single EPOS unit. And then a single workstations as well, and they get used a lot for. The next one you'll notice looks pretty much identical to the C60, and the C200 is also line interactive, and there's only a subtle difference here. And while they look identical, it's the fact that the C60, when it's running on battery, has a simulated sine wave, whereas the C200, when it's running on battery, will have a pure sine wave. It's not that applicable to the IT markets, but if these UPSs are supporting more of an industrial load, the C200 is the better option, because motors prefer a pure sine wave output from the UPS on battery. So we sell a lot of these units to support roller shutters for shop fronts. We sell hundreds of these that go out a month to support that application. But in the same way, they can also be used for EPOS units and single workstations, maybe PoE switches. We'll move on to the C300R. So again, this is line interactive. It's a rack tower design, so this can either sit into a 19-inch rack, or you can stand it up on the thin edge of it, and the LCD display rotates around. So it's quite a versatile unit, and you'll notice that that's the same with the other rack mount units that we've got. They can be identified by having the R at the end of the product name. So the C300R, you can also add additional battery packs to increase the runtime, and it also has a communications card slot on the back, so you can have a network management card installed to do things like network management and monitoring via the network. So the C300R was released primarily because our major competitor in the IT market, the majority of their UPSs are line interactive. So we had something that would compete technically with that product. We'll move now on to the C400. So the C400 is the first of the online double conversion UPSs. So Mark explained the difference between those, but whereas the line interactive is reactive in the way that it works, it sits there waiting for something to happen. An online double conversion UPS is always doing something. It's always converting the mains power from AC down to DC through the rectifier. And then it takes that DC power and converts it back to AC through the inverter. And what that means is the equipment on the output of the UPS gets a really, really clean power supply. So it's good for server equipment or anything where it's going to be perhaps saving data. If you have other types of UPS on, potentially it could corrupt that data as a worst case scenario. So if you're supporting really critical equipment, maybe like servers, we'd recommend an online double conversion UPS. So the C400 goes from 1000 VA up to 3000 VA. And the reason it stops there is 3000 VA is the largest UPS that you can class as plug and play. So a plug and play UPS can be plugged into a 3-pin socket. So the install is very straightforward. And all the UPSs that we've looked at so far are classed as plug and play. Again, the C400 can have additional battery modules fitted to increase the runtime, and it does have a communication card slot to have the network management card installed. So move on to the C400R. So with it being the C400R, it's the rack tower design again. So in this slide, it's shown how it would go into a 19-inch rack, but in the same way that the C300R, you can stand it up on the thin edge, and the LCD display rotates round, and you can use it as a tower. And this makes it quite a versatile unit. Perhaps if you've got a customer that's got quite a few sites, it's a good unit to install, because then whether it's going in a rack or being used as a tower UPS, the IT managers or your engineers will be looking at the same UPS no matter which site you go to. So it's quite a versatile unit to use, especially on site for customers where they've got numerous sites. Again, it's an online double conversion UPS, so it's particularly suited to very critical loads, and you can add additional battery packs to get the longer run times. As standard in most of these UPSs, the internal batteries will give around 5 minutes, and then you can increase that to at least 60 minutes, several hours in certain instances, depending on what the application is. So as mentioned, the C400 and everything that we've seen beforehand is plug and play. So the install is very straightforward. You just plug it into the mains, and then there's IEC connections on the back to plug the IT equipment into. Moving on to the C550, from here on in, these UPSs need to be hardwired into an electrical supply. And the reason for that is this, the size starts at 6,000 VA or 6 kVA, which is more power than you can get from a 13 amp plug. So you need to hardwire it into a distribution board. So that would need to be done by a qualified electrician. It is something that CertaUPS can do. We have a good number of engineers dotted throughout the country that can support the products, but also help out with the install works as well if required. So the C550, we sell a lot of these into the hospital environment to support operating theatres. Within there, there's certain regulations that they must have a UPS, and this is one that gets installed into, we can say roughly half the operating theatres in the UK have a CertaUPS, and the C550 is the current model that's going in. So this is suited to a small comms room, perhaps big enough to support 2 or 3 racks. You can add additional battery packs onto here to get quite decent run times. And you can have the network management card capabilities there, so you can monitor the status of the UPS via the network, or you can send out shutdown signals to servers. So if the UPS is running on battery, you can set to do control shutdown on the servers rather than it getting to the end of the battery runtime and then everything shutting down ungracefully. Much in the same way that the larger brands of UPS in the UK, it's quite a common one with a well-known brand of software. All the CertaUPS range have the same capabilities, it's just in a different box basically. So the next one we're going to look at is the C550R. This is the same rating, 6 kVA and 10 kVA. So this is the rack tower version that we do. This again is the R, so it's a rack, or it can be go into a 19-inch rack, or it can be used as a tower UPS. So this is again suited to supporting critical equipment, maybe 2 or 3 racks. We have also installed quite a few of these for the point-to-point networks. Purdicom, these seem to be quite a popular unit with Purdicom's customers. So we have installed quite a few of these into those sorts of environments. We'll move on to the C500E. So this again is a hardwired UPS. It's online double conversion, and it's basically just the bigger brother of the C550. This goes from 10 kVA to 20 kVA. This can also have a 3-phase input, but it is always a single-phase output on this model. Again, you can add additional battery packs. You'll get, I think it's up to about 15 to 20 minutes from the internal batteries on this. There's quite a lot of space within the chassis to have batteries, but you can add additional battery packs for longer autonomies. So we're going to go on to, we've already mentioned a few of the applications for UPS systems, but there's just a few more listed here. Obviously the C60, C200, a lot of those get used for CCTV applications, networks, PCs. The C500 and the C550, we've installed quite a lot of those to support lifts or certain parts of elevators. They can be used for emergency lighting. A lot of public buildings require emergency lighting inverters, so that's something that we can offer as well. Medical equipment and devices. We do a lot of work in the operating theatres, but obviously there's a lot of IT infrastructure within the hospitals, and we've got the C400R, which is a good unit for supporting PoE switches and critical equipment. C400 is used a lot for telephone systems, PBXs. I know things are moving more into the cloud, but obviously PoE switches still need to be supported to put in a business resilience plan. And then there's access security, whether that's at the door entry points or supporting a PC with that data on. It's good to back that up with a UPS to make sure that power outages won't have any effect on there. So we're going to move on to what information we need to know when sizing up a UPS. I imagine that most of you will already be quite familiar with UPS systems and how to size those up. But as a bare minimum, we need to know the total load in watts that the UPS is going to be supporting. So that information can be found in the data sheets for most manufacturers' kit. Add up all the power supply ratings, that will give you the total load in watts. And then we need that figure and then how much runtime the customer wants. And that's pretty much all we need in order to provide a quotation. There are some additional bits of additional information that are useful, like the form factor that's required. Does the customer want to put this into a rack, or is it going to be sitting, in a comms room on the floor? So we can decide there. And also what sort of monitoring they would like to do. Would they like the capability to monitor the status of the UPS via the network? So there are a few bits of additional equipment that are information that are useful. If you struggle to get the load in watts from the data sheets for the equipment, just sending in a kit list to your Purdicom account manager will be good enough. We have calculators that we can use to get the information if you need. So don't worry too much if you're struggling to get that information. It is something that we can help out with. And that's about all we need to know to size up the UPS. So what we'll move on to now is the different accessories. So we'll move on to the different ways of communicating with the UPS. Sorry, I've just been asked a question here. 3 kVA of max input, 16 amps, so would need a commando supply, not a 13 amp outlet. So the 3 kVA does come with a 13 amp plug, but you can feed it from a 16 amp commando plug as well. But if we get your details, I can speak more in depth with that. It's Steve Hobbs. If you can send over a contact telephone number, I can perhaps speak to you more in depth afterwards. We're moving on to the different ways of communicating with the UPS. As standard, all of the CertaUPSs have the capability of being communicated via USB, so you can connect to a single host and get the information like what loads it's supporting, whether it's running on mains or battery, and it has the capability of sending out alerts via email through that. From the C300R and above, there's the capability of adding in a network management card or another communication form. So the SNMP card or network management card enables the UPS to be viewed via typing in an IP address to any browser connected to that network. And there is software included to do graceful shutdowns and monitor the status of a number of UPSs. We're going to be touching more in depth on the network management card and the technical side of this in a webinar that's planned for the 2nd of April. So we're hoping to go a bit more in depth. This is just to give an idea on what's available and an introduction to the CertaUPS product range. Other than that, within the communication card slot, you can also have either a Modbus card or a vault-free contact card. And these are often used to connect to a building management system, so you can get basic alerts as to the status of the different UPS systems. So moving on to the different accessories that you can get with the UPS systems. There's the external bypass switches. Obviously with the 6 and 10 kVA or 6 kVA and above, they're hardwired into a distribution board. So it's really useful to have a bypass switch, because these allow you to disconnect the UPS from the load without any disruption. And this could happen when you're either maintaining the UPS, or if the batteries need replacing, or any other maintenance work, or if the UPS fails for any reason. You can feed the load from raw mains while you're doing any of that work without causing any disruption. But equally, we do the bypass switches for even the really small units. So depending on how critical the equipment is that the UPS is supporting, even on the very small UPSs, it may be a good option to install a bypass switch, which would enable you to carry out maintenance work on the UPS without disrupting the load. Automatic transfer switches. A lot of critical server equipment has dual power supplies. So they'll have redundant power supplies on a server and maybe some network switches. Other equipment, maybe routers or firewalls, won't have redundant power supplies. So the automatic transfer switch allows you to have two supplies into it and then one supply out, and it will select between mains 1 and mains 2. So in effect, it gives power redundancy to single corded equipment. And we'll have a diagram showing how that would work in an IT environment in the webinar that's planned for the 2nd of April. Or if anyone would like to see that beforehand, more than happy to email it out if you include your email address in the chat. So I think that's it for the CertaUPS overview. I'll hand back to Mark, who'll have a look at the competitor comparison.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt, very much. Greatly appreciate that. So I just wanted to give a quick look at the market by doing some competitive comparisons, really, with other brands that are far more well-known and familiar in the market, which we can't mention, unfortunately, but I'm sure you can take a guess at who they might be. And so if we look here at an example of a 3 kVA rack mount online double conversion UPS, and like for like, the specs are almost identical. We've got slightly higher runtime with the CertaUPS, same wattage, power, both got LCD displays. But if we just move down to the bottom, this is where the key differences are. So all CertaUPSs come with a 3-year warranty as standard, and so we've got a 50% longer warranty than a lot of others. And then the bottom line is the key factor here. This is UK list price as the latest research we've done. So we're less than half the price for the Certa solution versus a lot of competitors in the market. And I guess that comes down to a couple of things. Certa could choose to spend millions of pounds on marketing and advertising to create brand awareness, or they could pass that on as savings to the end user and a margin for the channel. And thankfully for Purdicom and our partners, they decided on the latter. So it should be an easy conversation to have with your end users when you're looking at something at that price point, and also you're not having to quote out at cost plus margins, and there should be a decent margin for partners reselling it as well. So the second comparison we've got is the C300R, which is a line interactive 1 kVA unit. And similarly, specs are almost identical, like for like. We've got a slightly more efficient system with a CertaUPS. It's got a power factor of 0.9, so we've got a 900 watt output. Warranty again is 3 years versus 2 years, and we're saving nearly £100 on that one, so not a huge difference. But if we look at the third model, which is the same but a 3 kVA version, so again, line interactive 3 kVA, then again, like for like on all the specs, but the price is less than half. So again, this should make it an easy conversation to bring up with your customers. Certainly, if there's a certain amount of money to be saved there as well, it makes it attractive for them and for you to be able to resell. Also, then perhaps the biggest concern might be the awareness of the name and who are Certa. And I have to be honest, before Purdicom had engaged with Certa, I'd not heard of them and I wasn't aware of them in the marketplace. So we've worked a deal with Certa, whereas if you have a genuine end user opportunity, and the customer is keen on the solution, but they're perhaps a little nervous about putting in a brand they're not aware of, we could offer a sale and return offer on that system. And so we can process the order, ship you a brand new UPS. It can be installed at the end user. They can have 30 days to evaluate it, and we're on hand to make sure that there's any configuration issues and whatnot we can help with. And then at the end of 30 days, we'll invoice for that unit, and then the normal payment terms apply after that. So hopefully that's a good incentive to talk to your customers about it, and a good reason for them to gain confidence in the brand. And hopefully that's been a help today. We'll just have a little Q&A session. We've got a couple of questions on chat we'll try and go through now. And if we've not answered everything you want to know, feel free to put them into the chat box. Or, of course, Matt and myself are both in the Purdicom office today, so if you'd rather have a conversation about it, if that was easier, feel free to call the office after this webinar, and we can have a conversation about it as well, if that's easier. So we'll just run through a couple of the questions we got on the web chat.
So just looking here, there's one question, I think it's from Steve, about a 3 kVA UPS and whether it's okay to install on a 13 amp outlet. And the 3 kVA UPSs have a power factor of 0.9. So if you do 3,000 times by 0.9 is 2,700 watts, and then divide that by 230 volts, you get to about 11.7 amps. So we've never had any problems installing the 3000 VA UPS into a 13 amp socket. Obviously, if you're really loading the UPS up to the point where it's going to be running anywhere near full load, we'd probably recommend going to the next size up to a 6000 VA. But you should be able to run at full load without any issues. There's another question about plans to introduce a smaller rack mounted system with a 1U footprint. We have been testing a lithium ion version of a 1U for quite a while. If there's a high quantity of units, the CertaUPS factory produces units for all around the world, obviously. We have the UK range here, but it may be that there's already a product available, and we just need to get that brought here. So if you do have any inquiries, just send it through to your Purdicom account manager, and we'd be more than happy to have a look at that. Any other questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple of other questions here which I can read out. So we're looking at CertaUPS's market share in the UK, and someone's asked what's the current market share in the UK. Do we know what that is, Matt?
Yeah, so CertaUPS, the market share is quite small at the moment, probably looking sort of 5%, maybe even less. We've been focusing on more industrial and the medical applications, but obviously the reason for partnering with Purdicom is to attack one of the larger markets for UPS systems with the IT networking market, so we're hoping to grow that quite quickly.
Brilliant. I've got another question here. What is the CertaUPS support structure like? Can we speak directly to CertaUPS with any queries?
Yeah, so quite rare in the fact that we do have full UK support. Obviously, for the work that we do in the medical sector, we have to have engineers dotted all the way around the UK, and they're capable of doing a 4-hour response time to site to fulfill those SLAs. So on the back of that, we do have full office engineering support, we have R&D support within the UK, and quite a large stock holding. So we are very self-sufficient here, and there is engineering support available should anyone need it.
Brilliant. And then one last question we had here as well. What network management solutions are there? Yeah,
so I went a little bit into that. As standard, the UPSs come with USB socket, so you can connect to a single device. But from the C300R and above, there is a communications card slot, so you can have a network management card. And what you find is the network management card will do exactly the same as any other brand of UPS. It may look slightly different, but the functionality will all be there. If anyone does have any questions on it, or if they sort of want to make sure that it will do exactly what they want, again, it'd be good just to contact your Purdicom account manager with those questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Excellent. Let's have a... Okay, I think that's all the questions. If we've missed anything, then please contact us directly. Thank you everybody for joining us on the webinar today. Please email CertaUPS@purdy.com if you have any questions. As I mentioned earlier as well, Matt and I are both in the Purdicom office. If you wanted a quick chat, either call in the office or just drop us an email through the CertaUPS@purdy.com and request a call back with your telephone number. We can give you a quick call and run through any questions we have. If you have it, please, I'll just encourage you, ask your account managers to add a UPS onto the bottom of each quote, and we can spec it up based on the equipment you're ordering. So it's quite a simple process, and hopefully between us we can help Certa grow and make good business in the process. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers, bye.